So continuing our discussion on the standalone.xml file, the last two sections that we have to look at are interfaces and socket binding groups. These both of course relate to how the server interacts with the network. Interfaces are used to define one or more named network interfaces. So this could be a specific network interface card or some network resource that is identified by a set of attributes. So it could be a network interface that's communicating across IPv4, for instance, or IPv6. It might have constraints on it such that the network interface does not offer UDP, for instance. So when we define a interface, we are defining a set of attributes that uniquely identifies that interface for us to use. And we give it a name such as management. Here we've got public and of course unsecure. These are three predefined interfaces that can have their actual IP address allocated at boot time by passing in the -d JBoss bind address management or JBoss bind address or JBoss bind address unsecure. All of these are able to be passed in as switches at the boot process, during the boot process, with -d switches to the JVM. As we've mentioned previously, the colon and value following that is a default value if it's not specified, and as I'm sure most of you probably know, 127.0.0.1 is localhost, and this is the default security, one of the default security features of JBoss EAP, in that it only listens initially on localhost. But we can use the combination of a named interface and sockets to set up where and on what ports our server is listening on. The where being the interface and the ports being the ports that are exposed across that interface. So you've seen the management interface in use already in the management section up here, where we identified the management native, management HTTP and management HTTPS socket bindings that are tied to the management interface, which basically means at this point in time they're tied to localhost. You can have as many interfaces as you choose. You just need to create additional interface entries for possibly different network interface cards. So if you want to segment your traffic across different channels, you can create additional interface definitions. In terms of defining these interfaces and how you can identify the properties that make up an interface, the best bet would be to reference the documentation. So chapter 5 in the documentation talks about network and port configuration. And if we scroll down a bit here, you'll see some examples of setting these up. Obviously we've seen these, they're the basic INET settings. But you can do something like a wildcard, which will basically bind to any address that the server offers. Or in a Linux environment, for instance, you could nominate the ETH0 or ETH1 or whatever as appropriate. And as I mentioned, you can set up complex rules that match based on, say, a subnet and whether multicast is supported and whether point-to-point is supported. There's a whole range of things, and in fact, if we scroll further down here, you'll see the variety of attributes that you can use to help uniquely identify the network interface card or cards that may in fact be used as part of your interface definition. And there's quite a few of them in here. Too many for us to go through in any detail. and you won't remember them anyway, so you'll need to reference this when you come to do this in your own environment. So just remember chapter 5 in the administration book. So the administration and configuration guide, chapter 5. This is available online at docs.redhat.com, and locate the JBoss Enterprise Application Platform Administration Guide. Associated with that, of course, is the socket binding groups. The socket binding groups allow us to nominate named ports, and of course we've seen a number of these already: the AJP, the HTTP, HTTPS, etc. These are put into what we call a socket binding group. The group has a name of our own choosing. These are, as you can see, defined as the standard sockets. You can nominate a default interface. This is the interface that will be used if a socket binding doesn't have a interface explicitly defined against it. So these ones down here are all bound to the public interface, whereas these three up here, of course, are bound to the management interface. So if these end up being different addresses, actual network IP addresses, then of course they'll be bound to different network interface cards. So it's fairly easy to create a fairly complex set of rules that the application server will follow in terms of what IP addresses and what ports are available to the server. This is much better than previous versions of JBoss EAP, where ports were scattered throughout the various configuration files. These are all now centrally located and give you enormous flexibility in how you go about binding and associating both IP addresses and ports.